Hey guys, Dan here. Welcome to Dan Reviews It. Special guest Merlin.
Hey.
Sometimes known in the mortal world as Joe.
Sometimes I go by Joe.
But typically Merlin.
Don't tell anybody.
And welcome to the first in a series that we've been talking about for longer than anything that we've wanted to do on the channel.
Probably.
And the time is right.
And give a little backstory about it too.
So, one of my favorite shows, maybe of all time, top 20, top 25 easily.
Okay.
Is Frasier.
Uh-huh.
And so we, years ago when we were doing Film Fanatics and getting together 3-4 times a week to watch movies, doing this 2-hour-long podcast every week, we talked about, we should do different shows for different days of the week. And it was probably right around the time we were doing Sopranos episodes on your channel.
Yep.
And I said, well, we gotta do Frasier Fridays.
It just sounds too good.
Sounds too good. I know you're a huge Frasier fan.
I am.
Interesting, though, because not really much of a Cheers watcher.
Not really.
Which
I think will add some interesting
it'll add some dynamics, yeah. So we go back and forth all the time on it. Hey, we should... And it started out, I think, as a joke.
It was a joke.
But, I was kind of serious. But
I know, and you just never made it a thing.
But I never made it a thing, because I think you took it as a joke, and then whatever.
And Fridays were busy. Yeah.
Fridays were busy. So we kept talking about it. Every, year, it would rear its head a couple of times.
Frasier Friday.
And then, hey, Frasier Friday, And then the news came down the other week that they are working on a reboot of Frasier. Kelsey Grammer, who plays, of course, Frasier, has announced, yes, we're working on this. Here's kind of what we know and don't know about it so far. And I said, well, this is it now. The timing is right.
We talked about it.
Waited for 6 years.
Literally, a couple of days. We have no excuse yet for potential views.
Yeah,
got to do it.
This is it. And I think the thing that we found the most surprising, really of all time, on my YouTube channel, whether it be with me solo or with Film Fanatics, is these Roseanne reviews.
Yeah,
just took off.
Cool, man.
I just sort of thought on a whim, don't have anything new to review. I wasn't going to see new movies anymore. Love Roseanne all my life. Let's throw a episode review up of the new Roseanne, and it just blew up. So obviously Connors is on hiatus, but I know there's a lot of Frasier fans out there. So we'll see. I don't think it's going to get quite Connors numbers, but but I'm happy to rewatch this series anytime. This will be probably my 3rd or 4th time through just in the last 10 years since it's been off the air. Well, it's been off the air, I think, 16 years, but 2003. But,
wow, yeah.
I watched every episode when it was on. I watched it in reruns all the time. It was on Nick at Night. It was on Lifetime. So some of these episodes I've seen a lot.
Yeah, and I've seen it multiple times, too. I think I've watched so much Frasier just on my downtime, easily marathoning them, which...
Yeah, just kind of bumping around season to season.
And for me, Netflix was the recent reason for that. But even, back in the day when I grew up watching some of it, I saw a lot of it. So I've seen many episodes multiple times.
Yeah. So we're going to talk today, really, about kind of the history of the character.
Yeah. And
then just about the pilot.
Yeah.
The pilot of the Frasier.
Get us started.
So this is a book that I've been talking about on my channel called The 1001 Shows You Must Watch Before You Die. Frasier, of course, is included in here.
I hope so.
And I love that the opposite page is Beavis and Butthead. That makes me happy.
There's something
we're
really
both big fans of
profound.
That.
Also a great show, yeah.
Because it's listed from release date, so they both came out in '93.
So if aliens looked at the planet and said, this is what they have to base Earth culture on, these are the 2 things they need.
Exactly. So, that is for sure a must-see TV for me, is Frasier. So let's go back to the origins of the character.
Tell me.
Cheers is, I would say, still in my top 5. But when I was a kid, middle school, high school, Cheers was my favorite show. The new episodes were great. I caught on to it when Kirstie Alley came on.
Okay.
Because I was too young when the original Shelley Long episodes aired, but then I caught them later. Frasier comes on in season 3. Now you know the basics of Cheers, I assume.
Yeah,
some of the characters or what have you.
It was actually because of you, and I guess maybe we'll talk about this later. But
Cheers is up on Netflix too. Easy access.
Yeah, I watched Frasier mostly independently and was mostly like I knew Cheers existed, but I was unaware of the connection. And then once I talked to you and found out more about Cheers, I'm like, oh, he's from there. And I watched some of I think I got through the first couple seasons.
Okay.
Though I don't know if I actually got to Frasier's first appearance. I might have.
Okay, maybe not, because he comes in the beginning of season 3.
Yeah, I don't know if I got there.
So that's possible.
But I know enough about Cheers to kind of
great writing. Some of the sharpest writing on television.
I thought it was very funny.
And really, it almost didn't happen. It's sort of a Seinfeld-ish story.
Really?
Because the first season of Cheers was one of the lowest rated shows on television. But somebody at the network really was gunning for it. It was nominated for a bunch of Emmys, so they said, you know what, let's stick with it and see what happens. Kind of like Seinfeld, how the first few seasons were just not very well received.
Yeah.
So as Cheers kind of plugged along, about 2 or 3 seasons in is when it really kicked up. It ended up, obviously staying on for 11 years and long time, many episodes. It finished one of its seasons in first for all of TV. I think it was season 9 maybe. But so you've got the whole Sam and Diane thing. Frasier comes in at the beginning of season 3 as Diane's boyfriend. They were always sort of counterculture. Sam kind of the dumb jock and Diane the high culture. So she picks Frasier.
Makes sense.
And it was supposed to be a guest spot for about 3 or 4 episodes. And let me tell you what happened. I read this great book on the history of NBC called Top of the Rock. And in it, they talk about how the writers didn't really like Shelley Long, and she did not get along with Kelsey Grammer. So the writer said, oh, no, we're going to keep him around just to piss Shelley Long off.
Wow.
So it's really because of her and her hatred for working with Kelsey Grammer.
Ironic.
That we have all this Frasier stuff. So anyway, that relationship fell apart. She went back to Sam, and then she left the show about halfway through the run, a little bit before. But by that point, Frasier was a staple on the show. He had already met Lilith before Shelley Long left, so he was already in that relationship. So that was building. And then what's great about the Frasier character is how he's grown, really just in Cheers. We'll get to all the Frasier stuff eventually, but I mean, he was, very highfalutin, like, I'm too good for this bar, let's go Diane kind of thing. And then as the seasons progress, he becomes more and more one of the barflies and, participates in their contests and, enjoys all the same nonsense and stuff. And
interesting.
It's through the great writing of the show that he sort of, becomes one of them, even though he was married to Lilith, and obviously she's very, kind of stick up her butt, kind of, whatever.
Very much so, yeah.
So it was still a nice juxtaposition there. And, I mean, his bachelor party is one of the classic episodes where he just kind of goes a little crazy. That was, I think, the first time he really went, nuts on the show. And so in the later seasons, they separate, Frasier and Lilith, and she goes and lives in an eco-pod with one of her co-workers, and he ends up on the ledge of the upstairs restaurant about to commit suicide over it. Which is actually part of the reason they decided this would be great for him to start fresh, move him to Seattle, because obviously he's gone through a lot. And this was all in the last season of Cheers.
I cheated a little, and I was saying how I can't just watch one episode. So I watched the first couple episodes of Frasier, and he was talking with his dad about some getting more personal, and he talks about this. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And I didn't. So that actually happened in Cheers. He's referencing something that did
happen.
Wow.
Yeah. So and I don't know where in the process the writers decided they were going to spin him off. I don't know if that was part of the season all along, but I do know that Ted Danson at the beginning of that season was like, "Hey, this is going to be our last season. I don't want to do it anymore." So they knew going into the season it would be their last. So I'm sure they probably, were finagling a little bit.
And I don't
with that.
I don't really want to take away from the conversation. But I'm curious about your insight because
ask me anything.
I'm so fascinated by the character, and obviously turned out to be they knew they had something with him that was ended up being about equally as popular.
Right.
So, I mean, based upon his growth and how he's written in Cheers, and at that point when Cheers was ending, what do you think kind of caused them to say this is the guy to have a spinoff? Because wasn't there another spinoff show that did not take?
I always actually wondered that, because when it was first announced, I mean, my whole family was big Cheers fans.
Yeah.
We were all kind of like,
really?
Frasier? Okay, you know, like,
because he seems like the outlier?
Well, yeah, like, I don't know. I guess, to me, this is why I don't work in television, I guess. I would have thought it would have made sense to spin Woody off. Obviously, Woody Harrelson was getting big with his movie career at that point, so he wouldn't have done it. But, you know, Woody had gotten married in the second to last season to a rich girl, and he's, you know, hick from Indiana, so they kind of had a juxtaposition. To answer your question, yes, they did have a spinoff earlier in the series, but it wasn't any of the main characters. It was Carla's ex-husband, Nick, and his wife. Lasted, I think, 6 episodes. It was called The Tortellis. So not... I actually never saw it. I was too young at the time. I think it was maybe 83, 84.
So it was like right at the beginning.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, it was 3rd or 4th season they spun it off. And they've never run it since. It's not on DVD.
Wow.
So I've actually never seen it.
Wow, okay.
Believe it or not. But that was the only other spinoff. And yeah, like it would, you know, they could have spun off Kirstie Alley's character. They could have spun off, you know, a few different ways they could have gone with it. But obviously they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the time it seemed odd to me, for sure.
I mean, based upon what I saw in Cheers and kind of rewatching Frasier again, even though Frasier does seem like very different from most of the characters in the Cheers bar, the humor is very similar, where you have the dichotomy between the blue collar stuff and then the really pompous,
and his more highfalutin,
and really him interacting with his dad. That constant clash, and obviously, but it's interesting. Is one thing I've noticed. Hopefully, this is just evolving naturally.
Yeah, it usually does.
Frasier, and we'll obviously get to this, but Niles is kind of like, I want to say he's probably more like Frasier was in the beginning. He is like the epitome.
I can speak to that.
And Frasier seems oftentimes, especially early on in the season, like we'll talk in the pilot, Niles is like kind of almost insufferable. He starts off being honestly kind of unlikable in the beginning, and I noticed Frasier has a lot of those tendencies, but he's the one that makes that extra effort to try and be one of the people, see other perspectives, not be so uptight all the time, more humble. And I'm like, that is interesting, and that probably has something to do with what happened in Cheers.
Yeah, I think a lot of it does, and I think you know, like we're talking, I think the writers obviously knew it was going to be the last season of Cheers. I'm sure they probably spun his arc in a certain way to make sense for him to leave Boston. And at the same time, casting sort of behind the scenes for Frasier, because John Mahoney, Perry Gilpin were both guest stars in the last like 5 or 6 episodes of Cheers. John Mahoney played a jingle writer. I forget honestly what Perry Gilpin played, but yeah. So you know, I think obviously they had their sights set on that. And the whole Lilith thing, you know, Lilith and Frasier always made sense to a degree, but yeah, as the seasons went on, you know, he was spending more time at the bar. He was, you know, becoming more friends with everybody, and sort of, I don't want to say, you know, sinking to their level or whatever, but mentally he was sort of checking out of his psychiatry stuff a little bit. Which obviously was causing rifts
like
in there.
Neurotic to the point of everything is
correct.
Psychiatry.
And you know, I think she is a great character.
Oh yeah, she's great.
And they flesh her out maybe even more in Frasier.
I think so. From what
you know, and she was like recurring for a while on Cheers. I think there were 2 seasons where she was in the opening credits, and she was on almost every episode. But we never really got to know her that well.
You get to know her more in Frasier.
Yeah, because it's funny because Cheers was such a big ensemble, especially by the end. I mean, there were probably 8 or 9 people in the credits, and then 3 or 4 that recurred almost every episode too. And one of the things I think is very interesting about Frasier, that we'll get to actually from when I watched the commentary on the pilot today, which is something I actually didn't think about, is that they purposely kept the cast very small to be able to you know, give people more of a chance to shine and more for their characters to grow,
to be fleshed out,
as opposed to, Cheers was just
kind of a,
by the end had so many people.
Your bits, everybody gets their line, their comment over stuff. So they stand out, but not quite as much.
Right, and something else that they mentioned in the pilot commentary was that I wouldn't have picked up on is that everybody gets their own individual scene. First it's Frasier and Roz, so we meet Roz a little bit. Mm-hmm. Then next we meet Niles a little bit, and then we meet the dad.
They break it up like that.
So they break it up, and then
the job, and the brother, the dad.
So, yeah. So
he's not coming in.
With that in mind, So Cheers lasted 11 seasons. Frasier lasted 11 seasons. Damn. Cheers had about 10 more episodes, but still, I mean, there's very few.
It's a long running universe
that I can think of that lasted longer or as long as the original series.
Consecutively?
Not too many. I mean, The Simpsons obviously was spun off from Tracy Ullman, but
that doesn't
the only other one I can think of for like live action sitcoms is All in the Family begat the Jeffersons. Jeffersons lasted, I think, 11 years.
Wow.
All in the Family, I think, was maybe 7 or something. But so that was a long lasting one as well. But
not much competition there.
Not much competition, and in terms of quality and consistency.
Pretty consistent.
Frasier ended on a high note, just like Cheers did.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers was in the top 5, I think, for that last season. So was, Frasier did very well, probably top 10 in the last season.
Yeah.
And a staple for NBC, certainly for years and years and years.
Yeah.
In that book, actually, that I read, The Top of the Rock, they said that in the early 2000s, when they would put a show on, they figured, well, if it fails, we can always just put a second or third episode of Frasier on that week.
Just rerun more Frasier. No one's going to complain.
And they really did. I mean, I remember at one point Frasier was literally on 3 days a week.
That's probably how I saw it.
And it still did well,
Yeah.
So let's get to the pilot. So,
sure.
It's called The Good Son. And it takes Frasier to Seattle. And yeah, it all makes sense, like we've talked about, which he mentions right away.
Mm-hmm.
And what I like about the episode as a whole is that, with a pilot, you have to set up everything.
Yes.
And that is very tricky.
Less than 25 minutes.
Yeah, less than 25 minutes to do everything. We knew one character here, but we didn't know anybody else, and we had no idea why he left Boston.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of Cheers, he never said, like, oh, I'm going to Seattle, see ya, Boston. So we didn't know. So right away, we see that he's on the radio in the very first scene. Okay, cool. We've established he's got a radio show.
Mm-hmm.
We've established he's in Seattle. Why is he in Seattle? He tells one of his callers his tale of woe.
Mm-hmm.
Broke up with Lilith, this and that. And so, he wanted to get a fresh start. So right away, you're like, okay, now, not only do I already know this character, but I know all the reasons that he's here.
Okay, it's here.
You know.
I know why he's here. It's all set up.
Right.
Right away.
And then we see Roz, who we don't know.
No.
But we get to know immediately
what she's like.
When she basically tells him it was a bad show.
It's like, well, I could handle criticism. You did all these
X,
things
Y,
wrong.
and Z.
So much wrong.
Yeah.
She's very blunt.
and what I love about that is right away the dichotomy between the two of them.
Yes.
Because Frasier is obviously very book smart, brilliant guy, but he, and we see this through the series when he has plumbing problems, and
common sense is like
he cannot do blue collar things.
No.
Doesn't know how, it's not in his nature. So Roz may be
a little more
dim book wise,
but she's got a lot of street smarts.
And she is a pro in her field.
She's talented.
Yeah, she's a talented producer. So we see that right away. Then we get to the brother. And, originally they were going the complete opposite.
Really?
Originally they were going to go, this dude needs to be dumb, blue collar,
interesting.
9-to-5er.
Huh.
And then somewhere along the line, one of the producers was like, or, I think it was actually because they saw David Hyde Pierce in a play on Broadway or off Broadway or whatever, and just thought he looked so much like Kelsey Grammer. They kind of workshopped that and thought, hey, what if they were the same And Niles is
just,
even the fussier version.
He's even to show that there is somebody who's even more like that than Frasier.
Right.
More Frasier than Frasier.
More Frasier than Frasier. Great White Zombie song. That was the original title.
Frasier than Frasier. Yeah.
But I knew you would like that reference.
That's good. Yeah.
But so that's how that all came about. Originally, it was totally not that.
Interesting.
And then also the dad, in terms of Cheers lore, was dead. He said in one episode about how his dad died and he never got the chance to tell him whatever, and always with his damned experiments. So he was like a scientist.
What?
Which they, in the first episode that Ted Danson is in, or maybe it's the only episode, but it's the first time a Cheers person comes on. It's explained.
Okay.
Ted Danson's like, "Oh, Frasier said you were dead," and Frasier goes, "Oh well, yeah, we had a fight that week, and I was mad at you or something." and then he goes, Ted Danson goes, "Well, he also said you were a scientist," and so. Martin's like, well, what am I? What? I'm a scientist? And then Frasier goes, well, you were dead. What do you care?
What do you care?
So I love that they addressed that.
That's good. I would be wondering.
Because I wondered as well. I was like, being a Cheers fan, I was like, I knew that his dad was supposed to be dead,
Interesting.
So I thought that was good. They dealt with that. Not in the pilot, but.
Okay.
So then you've got, the dad coming in. The chair. Eddie the dog.
Eddie.
And then Daphne.
Daphne Moon.
So you have this. You get the lay of the land immediately in this pilot.
And
I think they did a great job with it.
What works really great about it is going back and watching the pilot again and having watched a lot of Frasier, they really set up fundamentally what the basic beats of each episode are going to be, and how every conflict.
The title cards.
You've got the title cards set up each little scene, each little conflict, which are usually interconnected, but they have individual issues too. And you've got Frasier and Ross have differing opinions.
Right.
And obviously they kind of have some off-color comments, and Frasier's kind of irritated by that. He and Niles have some conflict about something, and they're both worried. And usually that balance is, you've got, of course, Frasier hates Eddie. That's a running gag. He hates the chair. Oh, and by the way,
doesn't want Daphne there.
Doesn't want Daphne there, and establish her psychic stuff.
Right.
And I think the one thing that I thought was really, really great for a setup about the joke is how, Frasier's trying to explain to his dad about, all the different furniture.
Matches,
and he's
but it's okay.
It's like nothing matches. And he's like, oh, that's just called, what did he call it? I don't know. It was a specific style that nothing matches.
Yeah.
And then if you have enough furniture that's expensive enough, it'll all make sense.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, it's your money. Yeah, eclectic. He's like, well, it's your money. And that made me laugh. And then Daphne comes in and she loves the ratty chair that he hates. He's like, oh, that's how I do it. Just buy one piece and then slowly work on the rest. Like, she hates the secrets.
She hates it.
And I'm just like, I just love how everybody would just go
well, then when Frasier. He brings the chair in to begin with. Frasier's like, oh, this doesn't match anything. And Martin goes, well, it's eclectic.
It's exactly. It's like it doesn't fit his style.
What a brilliant setup joke. Because the joke part doesn't come for 2 more minutes. But it's a brilliant setup.
It's a long setup, but the payoff is great, and that's why
payoff is good, right? And then they bring it up again with Daphne. Like you said,
and it's just great because throughout the episode, I had a lot of laughs. I think that I watched a couple episodes, and I thought the pilot was one of the strongest because I had so many good laughs.
Yeah, and it really isn't easy, like we said, to do a pilot because you've got to establish everything. The fact that you can have so many laughs and so many punchlines in this episode of people other than Frasier you don't know, but yet you do. They establish them so instantly, and like you said, something that struck me was Niles, Roz, and Martin are pretty much exactly who they are in that pilot the entire season. Or the entire series, I mean.
Pretty much.
Daphne changes a little bit. They definitely tamped down the psychic stuff. I think they were trying to make her a little more wacky. Yeah, more kooky than relatable.
Yeah, but they always kept the psychic thing, but you're right, they downplayed it.
Yeah, but they downplayed it. In the first season, they do it a lot, and then in subsequent seasons, it's downplayed.
I will say, though, that I will stand that in the first season early on, I do think Niles is more of a jerk than he is throughout the show. Yeah, he develops, too.
Yes, well, and that is because
we'll see later, his interaction with Roz. He is mean to her for no reason.
Yeah, he is.
Beginning.
Well, he thumbs his nose at her. And you're absolutely right. I think Niles does definitely become nicer, but I think a lot of that has to do with the scenarios. I think now he's back with his brother, which there's always been some rivalry there.
Oh, definitely.
So they've got that. And then with the dad and them kind of being closer to him now that he lives with Frasier. And I think just softening up because he has a crush on Daphne helps as well, which they don't even meet in the first episode.
No, I was surprised they don't. Actually,
I think it's episode 3 or 4, I believe.
One of two.
The only thing that struck me about the pilot that I thought they definitely moved away from this sentiment is when they were about to hug Frasier and Niles, and they said, "Oh, remember what Mom said? A handshake's just as good as a hug." We learn. That's not too soon after that their mother was very loving and very giving, and and that's why they sort of didn't connect as well.
And I think that maybe that's something they could have said out of context. But you're right. I remember thinking that didn't seem that didn't seem like something their mom would say.
That's the only thing in the pilot that sort of stuck out to me as like, okay, that doesn't. But everything else, like. For example, I don't really like the first season of Friends because everybody's so different from what they ended up being. And I don't remember the pilot specifically. I don't remember, more than the basic plot of it. But the characters are just not defined yet. They're not developed. And honestly, kind of same for Seinfeld. And I think a lot of shows in their first, season even, but especially in the pilot.
Got to find out where we're going.
Yeah, like I just finished 30 Rock last week.
Oh, that's a great show.
Excellent show.
Yeah.
And right from the start, everybody's pretty much established.
You know who they are.
You know who they are pretty much immediately. And a lot of shows don't have that, but this did. Like, you just knew everybody.
You really get a strong sense of who all these characters are just so quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
And, like you said, it's funny.
It's really funny.
For characters you don't know anything about.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
And they seem very, not always likable, but relatable and and interesting.
Well, and I thought it was ballsy that they had a big scene, like, kind of in the middle of the episode that does not end on a laugh, is when, Frasier and Martin are kind of going at it about, well, you've disrupted my life. Well, my life's disrupted too. They could have ended that on a laugh, and they didn't.
And that's actually one of the things I like about Frasier, and a lot of the best sitcoms. Not all of them, obviously, but it's like we always say, even the great comedies, they have their serious moments.
Yeah.
And
that's why I've always loved Roseanne.
Yeah, Roseanne.
To be honest.
And I think a lot of people would say MASH is up there first.
Oh my God.
Some episodes are like no laughs really.
Yeah.
But that's probably the extreme example. But
rare in a pilot, I would think, for a comedy show.
For a comedy, but like that family drama, which I'm sure a lot of people could relate to, and that is a contention for the whole show.
Right.
That's obviously not resolved, but you do see how they resolve it in the episode.
Right.
Still,
which is brilliant.
It's brilliant. It's funny. But also touching and a little, I could. Yeah, it
really is.
It goes there.
Yeah.
So I was like, that is pretty ballsy for a pilot.
I really thought it was. Yeah. So I loved that. I mean, I think it's one of the better pilots I've probably seen. I mean, it's so good at establishing everything and still being what the show was. So many shows will, like we said about Friends and stuff, will pitch the pilot, okay, here's the pilot, and then the network will be like, oh, well, why don't you change this and that, and they'll swap an actor out or whatever.
Okay.
And this was just, from the word go, it was like, this is what the show is and what it was for 11 years.
The formula worked.
The formula worked.
Pretty much stuck with it.
And speaking of Friends, did you know the trivia behind Lisa Kudrow was originally supposed to be Roz?
Really?
Yep. It was between the two of them. They both did many auditions, and they ended up going with Lisa Kudrow. And then I don't know if they started doing table reads and she just wasn't right, or somewhere along the way they decided, you know what, it's not right.
Huh.
And then she got Friends 1 year later, so obviously it worked out. But
it worked out. But with the type of character she was playing, she's always kind of somebody who's kind of worrisome. And that biting
you really needed
the
yeah.
And also Ross is also very promiscuous, which
plays in very well throughout the series.
Very well, and I guess with Lisa Kudrow, she has a different delivery. I don't want to say,
especially back then, before she really had a lot of different roles.
Kind of like, it was always a little more of like kind of an
ditzy
airhead is what I want to say.
Yeah.
And I don't really see Roz as, she has moments like that, but that's not really the character.
Roz is a great, strong female character for a sitcom.
I was going to say, she really is, and I'm sure we'll talk about that too. It's, obviously, because it's trying to be an intelligent show, and Cheers was like that too. Very forward thinking, ahead of its time in so many areas.
Yes.
And if I remember correctly, and this will come up too, what is with the Cheers, Frasier universe and their connection to Star Trek? Because there are so many. If I remember correctly, the pilot of Cheers, the movie they're talking about at the beginning, is Wrath of Khan.
I believe that is true. Yes.
And that's one reason I was like, who likes Star Trek?
Patrick Stewart, of course, came on to Frasier in one of my favorite episodes.
Oh yes, as the gay big lover and
art lover,
and how they deal with homosexuality is pretty tasteful.
Well, Cheers had, I think it was the first season, had a gay episode where there was a gay guy at the bar and Norm was afraid it was going to turn into a gay bar, and in 1982 or 83, that's intense. pretty progressive.
pretty progressive.
So they've always been like that.
That's
good. So I guess final thoughts on the pilot. We'll grade it. What a pilot!
What a pilot! Yeah.
I think we've pretty much said it all. I can't think of anything else.
Pretty much praised it.
I was thinking.
Man.
Well, it's great. What's not to praise?
Exactly. I don't have really any major problems with it or anything. I think the hard part about grading it for me is I know that watching Frasier, there are certainly plenty of episodes I like more.
Yeah.
But
you know what? You have to grade the pilot on a curve. At least I do.
Okay.
Because I think it's so hard to do a good pilot.
Because it's not established.
Because you have to establish the entire world of these people.
It was pretty well done.
In 23 minutes.
Yeah, it was masterfully done. That would be tough to do. You want me to grade it?
You can grade it first if you'd like.
It gets a solid A then for me. I don't really have any issues. I think your point about them, going back retrospectively about the handshake thing,
that was the one part that sticks out to me.
Going back though, that's something there, but
obviously they hadn't yet figured that out.
Yeah,
that this was the dynamic.
There are certainly episodes I probably like a little more, but I got a lot of laughs out of the pilot though. I really
me too.
Did.
I'm actually going to give it an A+.
You're going to give it an A+.
I do grade the pilot on a little bit of a curve, like I said. Like you said, there's certainly better episodes out there.
Yeah.
But in terms of establishing all of these characters and really sticking with it for all 11 years. Yes, obviously they change and everybody grows,
sure.
But at the core, these characters are who they are, and just for it to be so damn funny.
Yeah.
Is, I think, very hard to do.
It's amazing.
Even to have the chair play such an important role in the pilot.
The chair is like its own character.
It's such a throwaway, but it is like its own character.
And again, that guy.
Remember the episode where he lights it on fire?
The one where they drop it.
Or they throw it off the balcony. The chair has a life of its own, and who could know that? But there it was in the pilot, So I give it an A+. Okay. I think.
Well, I'm not going to dispute you on that.
It's so strong.
It's very strong.
Yeah.
It's really good.
So that is our first Frasier Friday.
Officially
getting started.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what the
format's going to be.
The format's going to be. Obviously, we're not going to go every episode gets its own review.
I'd like to do it, but I know that if we did that, we'd probably never finish it.
Correct. Yeah, there's 264 episodes, I think, something like that.
So, I like what you did with Roseanne season.
Yeah, season by season, I think sounds good.
Maybe break it up, or you know what we could do,
or do half seasons or whatever.
We'll go around. We'll go through episodes quickly, or season overall, and maybe we can have specials talking about episodes
our
we really
favorites,
liked, ones really stuck out to us. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, and certainly I would love to coordinate kind of the ending of this with the reboot beginning, but I don't know when that's going to be yet. So
and I'll tell you what,
hard to tell.
The schedules, you'll definitely be on there, but I'll be watching it, and I'll
always.
I'll be doing commentary too whenever I can.
I know.
So I'm down for that.
Okay, good.
I'm down for that.
Well, and what'll be nice is if they air it on Thursdays, classic NBC Thursday nights. Frasier Friday. We review the episode.
You can review it and then get it out by Friday.
It out immediately.
That would be perfect, yeah.
All right, well, comment below, please. Let us know your thoughts on Frasier,
if you
on
like
Cheers.
It.
Yeah.
Grammar.
Grammar.
Expendables 4.
I hope he's not in Expendables 4.
I'll be fine with that.
I would prefer him to focus on the Frasier reboot than do Expendables 4
Same.
or Think Like a Man 3 or
Transformers 9.
yeah, any of those. But all right, well, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Comment below. Check out Merlin's channel also. Tons of great stuff on there if you're an anime fan, movie fan. I mean,
comic
so
books,
much. Yeah, comic books.
Gaming, food.
A lot of different
weather.
reviews, a lot of news. Weather sometimes, yes.
Podcasts with a bunch of people. It's always something.
Yeah, so check that out too. But all right, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.